Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. If you're enjoying your day, sweet. If not, what the hell ever. So, episode 193. This is originally going to be 50 WWE matches I recommend you avoid watching episode, but I decided to swap this with today's topic because I can't find enough entries quite that easily without some feeling repetitive in time for this episode. So, instead, we're going to cover the entire history of the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. Now, I know this history precedes, the title run that began where we're starting off with this timeline, but I'm only going to focus about this time on the WWF banner. Make that clear. So in the fall of 1997, the WWF would hold a tournament to crown its inaugural Light Heavyweight Champion as a way to counter against the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. This tournament would start in early November and would conclude at the D-Generation X In Your House pay-per-view in December of 97, where Taka Michinoku would defeat Brian Christopher, later known as Grandmaster Sexay, to become the first ever Light Heavyweight Champion. Now, this run would last over 300 days, until he lost it in October of 1998 to Christian at the Judgment Day pay-per-view event. Christian's time as champion would only last a month after this, as he then lose the title to Dwayne Gill on the November 23rd, 1998 episode of Raw, and during this time, Dwayne Gill would get rebranded as Gillberg. However, his time as champion will also be noted for two things: the length of the title run and the lack of defenses. Gillberg's last title defense on television would have him retain against Matt Hardy in a short match on the December 13, 1998 episode of Heat, which preceded the Rock Bottom In Your House pay-per-view. Throughout the year of 1999, Gillberg would have 10 televised matches in the year 1999, but never defended the Light Heavyweight Championship despite having the championship with him. He even lost the WWF World Championship match against Triple H in under 2 minutes on the September 2nd, 1999 episode of SmackDown. And when it comes to Gillberg's run, he would have the championship for over 440 days, which would then conclude on the February 13, 2000 episode of Heat, where he would lose it to the title to the defending S.A. Rios. But then Rios' time as champion would last a little over a month before he'd lose the title to Dean Malenko on the March 13, 2000 episode of Raw is War. Scotty 2 Hotty would then defeat him for the championship on the April 17, 2000 episode of Raw, only to lose it back to Dean Malenko 10 days later on SmackDown. Now, right after this was Backlash, and this event would be noted for a couple things involving the Light Heavyweight Championship, where the red strap would be replaced with a black strap, and the plates would get updated where the small block logo on the top of the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, the old school WWF logo, would disappear. The side plates would get replaced with replica ones that were like the original side plates before the red strap was replaced, and would have the WWF scratch logos on there, so a bit of a rebranding redesign there. Dean would then hold his championship for 11 months, before suddenly losing it to Crash Holly on the March 18, 2001 episode of Heat. And then Crash would only hold the championship for a little over a month, nearly a month and a half, when he lost it to Jerry Lynn on the April 29, 2001 episode of Heat prior to Backlash, which was Jerry Lynn's televised debut following the closure of ECW. And then Jerry Lynn's time as champion would last almost a month and a half, as he would then lose it on the June 7, 2001 episode of SmackDown to Jeff Hardy. Now, Jeff's run would be very short-lived, as he would only hold the title for 18 days, losing it to X-Pac on the June 25th, 2001 episode of Raw is War, amidst the Invasion storyline angle. Now, during this time, we also saw the Cruiserweight Championship from WCW get brought in because of this whole Invasion storyline, and X-Pac, at the end of July of 2001, would also win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship from Billy Kidman to become a dual champion. Despite holding both titles, they would still be actively counted as being separate titles, similar to what we saw with the tag team titles in WWE within the last few years. X-Pac would then lose his Light Heavyweight Championship to Tajiri on the August 6, 2001 episode of Raw, only to regain it 13 days later at SummerSlam with his Cruiserweight Championship also on the line, so once again, the titles were together. After losing the Cruiserweight Championship to Billy Kidman on the October 11, 2001 episode of SmackDown, X-Pac would disappear from television due to an injury. A match was planned for Survivor Series less than a week prior, where he was scheduled to defend his Light Heavyweight Championship against Tajiri, who was the Cruiserweight Champion at the time, and both titles were going to finally be permanently unified, but this was completely scrapped due to X-Pac being injured. X-Pac, despite being on the shelf, would appear on the December 2nd, 2001 episode of Sunday Night Heat, where he would have the Light Heavyweight Championship in his possession. Now, after this, X-Pac would finally return to the ring just a few months later during house shows at the beginning of March 2002 and would defend the Light Heavyweight Championship 4 times, with the final defense happening on March 8th, 2002 at a house show in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. This would then lead the title to be quietly retired, and X-Pac would return to television as a member of the New World Order about 2 weeks later on the March 21st, 2002 episode of SmackDown without the championship in hand. So, yeah, not a whole lot to talk about involving the championship and its lineage due to the fact that this championship lasted a little over 4.5 years-ish, nearly there. And the title was marred by a lot of disappearances with the title, some title changes that just did not matter, and a whole lot of times where the title was not even defended on pay-per-view. I mean, the Cruiserweight Championship would do a lot better, like, as the years went on when the title got rebranded under the WWE banner, not including the redone one later on after the Cruiserweight Classic. But, I mean, this Light Heavyweight Championship never felt like it mattered, because, again, you look at Goldberg's run, he held the championship for over 440 days, never defended it on television at all during the year of 1999. You make some appearances, other times he kept disappearing, and finally when he did put the title on the line in the beginning of 2000, he lost it. So, yeah, not a fun championship to have, or really to remember, or even glamorize, but that's the entire history in one episode. Let me know in the comment section below, folks, what did you think about the Light Heavyweight Championship, and when it comes to the overall Light Heavyweight Championship, who is the person that comes to mind when you think of this title? Ironically, for me, the first person I think of when I see the title is X-Pac, just because, like, I keep remembering him being the champion as well as the Cruiserweight Champion at the same time during the Invasion storyline. I know Dean Malenko held it longer, like I mentioned earlier, but my mind immediately thinks to X-Pac when I see this championship, but let me know who comes to mind first when you think of the title. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, folks. If you did, please remember, leave a like, subscribe to the bell, turn on if you're listening to this on YouTube, or follow if you're listening to this podcast on any other service that this podcast is available on. And I'll catch you all in the next episode. Thanks for listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.